So I'm sure that most of you know that Arthur and I have been happily very dear friends for a long time, but I wanted to start with just a few reminiscences, the ones that have the the most meaning for me. This day in 2012, I was assisting Arthur in Coopville at the Pacific Northwest Art School, and he received his copy of The Color of Light, his first book. And it was a joy to watch his face, watch him open it, and just take in that moment with him. I know the class enjoyed it. I had a great time, and it's quite a special day. And then Arthur and I, for a number of years, have traveled together in photo tours. We've had a brief hiatus, but we're going to get in trouble again soon. And so here are some photos from around the world, actually: Seattle, Spain, Portugal, a couple other places here, all with a bit of a theme. I think that you can
Yeah.
probably tell that food is important. Oops, sorry. Traveling with Arthur means that I get to tag along and try to understand what it is he's photographing. And it also means that I get to make photographs of him while he's doing it. And I think that this moment in Kashkash, I did get the moment just before he made the photo, the wonderful photo that you see. And sometimes I just like to photograph Arthur. He's photogenic and fabulous in many different ways. But as he was waiting for this, we both noticed the light. And there's Arthur's wonderful picture. So enough of me talking. Arthur, welcome. Many thanks again. And shall we get started then?
Yeah, that was a fun trip down memory lane. And by the way, the color all of a sudden looks like it should.
Oh, very good. I'm very happy about that. Thank you, my friend.
So am I, darling. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
I
do
know
it.
you are. So, Arthur and I put together a slideshow that has some images from different places around the world. And I'm going to talk with him about a few, and Arthur's going to chime in with some stories as well. And here we go.
Yeah, I think these photos here that we're going to start with, this is all stuff that was photographed since, I'd say since 2017, which the book, The Journey, came out then. So
Mhm.
it's unpublished stuff. It's work that for the most part hasn't been seen.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to, give everybody some new things to look at because I'm sure we'll look at some of the other pictures as well. But
That's
yeah, this was from Portugal. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I noticed often as I was going through here in sequencing is we're struck by the photograph, we're struck by the color always, and the use of black, which has been really a pivotal learning spot for me with your work, Arthur. But then there's always a surprise. And we see the woman down here in the corner. There's almost always a surprise in your photographs. And it just makes it a joy to look at, all of them.
Well, I think that that's what we do. We recognize the possibility, a situation, a subject, and too frequently we don't spend enough time with it. And when we do, we're usually rewarded. In
That's
this case, I remember specifically being wowed by the three layers of red. You
Yeah.
had the red exterior of this corral, this fence. You had the red sashes the boys are all wearing. Then you had the red wall in the background.
Mhm.
And then you had the layers built by the two little boys in front, their gestures, how they fill in that part of the shot,
Mhm.
the activity that's going on in the moment, and getting that moment where the boy's about to fall, but hasn't fallen yet,
Right.
all
The
the way to
tension.
the background.
Yeah. It's tremendous. That was a great afternoon.
Sure was.
This photograph has always been a revelation to me.
How
I know
so?
this. Um, because I've been frustrated trying to photograph there at the in Keluge, and I thought, well, there's your proof. If you can see well enough, there are photographs to be made.
I think that happens to all of us all the time, especially when we go to places that are overrun with tourists.
Yeah,
We're looking for a new point of view. We're looking for something different. And sometimes that something different can be using some of the visual tools that I've talked about. Those that have been in my class, The Color of Light, or uh, have the book, The Journey, have, know about my process. And very much those tools came to me over time. It was a
right.
way of putting things together, looking back and adding those things up to see what makes a photograph. How can we think or
Mhm,
hear looking through uh, at a train station
mhm.
in
In Avignon.
France?
Yeah,
Mhm.
this was a great experience
Shadows,
too.
yeah, shadows really do play in big in the way I see and like to see. And this was kind of a combination of shadows happening, of course, down in the lower half of the shot. And the upper half was this tinted netting that,
Mhm.
of course, has that beautiful red, but then you see through to the blue sky between that, and the effect of red and blue combination
Yeah,
together there. And then I remember spending an enormous amount of time waiting for just something or someone to come into the shot, and then the delivery man on his phone there popped
right.
in.
It was
It's so much about, anticipation and waiting and luck. I mean, luck's involved.
talk about waiting in anticipation. This was such a great scene on the street in Paris,
Yeah,
and waiting
Karen
for
and
the
I,
right folks.
we were walking together and saw this and stopped dead in our tracks, because this is one of those facades, one of those backgrounds where all you have to do is wait for the players to come in and give it life, give it a moment, something special, something fun.
Yeah,
And I have numerous shots with various people passing through, but I like this one the most.
yeah. Such great graphics. Always great graphics, Arthur. And our favorite spot in Seville.
Yeah, it's a lot of time in that bar. But I think, all of us, we're visual. And so when we're out there, we're looking, as we should be as photographers, looking for possibilities. In my case, it might be the color. In this case, it was about shadows and the juxtaposition of shadow
Mhm,
figure to a live figure, or a figure that we see that's in the light,
mhm. And
plus
the
the
layer of the shadow with the facade in the front. It's a wonderfully layered photo as well.
Mhm.
This is just rich.
Well, this is one that I actually rediscovered, but it was shot in China. This was when I was printing my book, going in between the printing factory and back to the hotel, and I passed this window, and mostly that's just moisture, uh, condensation on the window, and the reflection. It's kind of a combination of seeing in and reflection together.
Mhm. This is great. This is just great.
This is something from my very last trip, made in December of what was it? I've lost track now. 20, I guess.
2019.
Yeah, and I had seen this spot. The photo tour had ended. I was staying on a few days on my own, and this little park was right about a half a block from my hotel. And I went down there and just sat down on the ground and watched these kids play, because I had a feeling this place would yield something. It wasn't at all what I was expecting, but that's always the case, I think, especially in Cuba. And then it became the situation of layers of light, the shadow light, the bright light in the background, the figures in between, kids playing and doing what kids do, and then this one moment where one boy's pulling on the other boy, separated by that vertical line right between them.
Yep.
Again, separation between the boy in the green shirt and the boy kicking the ball, the other boy behind them about to do something, and then the other figure passing in front of the camera. And this was shot with a 50 millimeter lens. I just say that because I thought for sure this was shot with a 35.
Mhm.
Lately, I've been spending more and more time going back and utilizing my fixed lenses more and more.
Mhm.
And kind of, between 28, 35, and 50. It's not
Mhm.
to say that that's the only things I use ever, but those of you who have traveled with me lately or been around me know that I pretty much lighten my load, as I think a lot of us have tried to do.
Right.
And in doing that, you begin to concentrate more and more on the focal length or lengths that you're utilizing. And when you do that, you're leaving yourself more open to these kind of possibilities and what you can do.
Yeah. Well, this is a tremendous example of just, I think that there must be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Arthur, but there has to be a level of feel that comes into this because this is such a split second moment. And you've done all the right things, of course, giving yourself the time to be there and take the scene in and watch as the light evolves and the choreography that's going on in front of you unfolds. But this is the absolute moment. I mean, the young boy in the far right is just perfect, and that action with those two in the front, and then the surprise of the silhouette. Again, it's that surprise that I'm always, you know, astounded by.
Well, myself, and even this way of shooting is so different for me. The last several years, I've really, I think, changed a lot in the way I look at photographs, making photographs. When I did my commercial work, which I've stepped away from now for, gosh, almost 10 years,
Hmm.
it was like all of a sudden I didn't have the weight of having to produce something. That was the one difference between the commercial world and the personal world was
Hmm.
you had to come back with something, and it not only come back with something, it had to be damn good.
Hmm.
This was different, and it opened things up for me in a way of seeing and working differently. And I really and truly think that the photographs I'm making now, the last few years, are significantly different from those that I made in the past. Um, Not necessarily better or worse, just different. And I think as photographers, that's the thing that we're always trying to do is to reach for the next step in what and how we shoot.
That's right. That self-discovery and that evolution in it. And when we're lucky, we're able to recognize when those slight shifts happen.
This was at a bus stop in Trinidad, Cuba,
Hmm.
and everybody had left. The class had left and gone off on their own. I just felt there was something in this place, color,
Yeah.
that kept me hanging in there. And then there was this moment where this woman came to use the phone.
Right.
He was in the back, in the back area where I was, where there was no light, and created a wonderful silhouetted gesture against the wall. And the way her body language, the way her hands extended, the way the coil of the cord works within that, the reflections on the phone, and
It's the
then the
reflection
figure in
on,
the
yeah,
background.
the reflection on the phone. And Arthur, I don't know if it's the color in her hair band or if it's a reflection on the silver hairband. But again, it's that surprise. It's that extra layer, that extra element that's just tremendous.
Yeah, it was. I remember, Karen. It was a silver metallic kind of
Yeah.
hairband, and that,
So there you
yeah.
go.
But so important to the shot to me also was the lady in the window looking bored, tired,
Oh yeah.
totally oblivious, and
Yeah.
a real key element. Plus the reflection in the window. It's a very simple shot, but the more you look at it, the more I think we discover things that keep us coming back for more.
That's a great photograph. Yeah. This is the best photo of this man I've ever seen.
Well, it's different. He's a beautiful guy. You people that have been to Kohimar outside of Havana, I'm sure have seen this man, and he's a wonderful subject. I wanted to get something different with him, and he started to pull his net, his that he uses for casting, out of his little cabin. And when he did, he was pulling it apart, and that was it.
Yeah. It's
We're,
really great.
that's the frame.
I'm very proud to say, and you'll forgive me, but I had a really strong connection with this man. And after, when we were ready to leave that day, he gave me a present and something that I treasure to this day. It was really, really nice. And photography gives us those gifts.
What did he give you?
He gave me an incredible set of three shark's teeth that are
Oh,
absolutely
cool.
beautiful. Yeah.
Son
Yeah.
of a bitch, he didn't give me anything.
Maybe you just didn't smile enough.
I tried. I like this shot. Go back just a sec. I
There you
like this shot because of this is one that plays with our perception, something I'm very involved with and love to look at. I think it's one of the
go.
wonderful things about photography. It's from a balcony
Oh,
looking down at a rooftop of a building in Mexico.
mm-hmm.
And just the monochromatic gray, scratchy palette of that rooftop was excellent. And then I began walking around, and then I found these two clotheslines. There's two in there if you look very
I see
carefully.
it. Yeah.
There's a green and white line that diagonal. Uh-huh. And then the red blanket, the single red blanket hanging over the blue one there.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just kind of a wonderful thing. It plays with the way our vision works and wants to, change the perspective of the way we're looking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful, Arthur. I mean, this is just about so much light. It's so, I mean, living in Europe, I've, and haunting old castles, cathedrals, I often am confronted with it, but it's a joy whenever we can find it. And that warm and cool thing happening together is marvelous.
Well, I think the important thing to speak to everybody about here is, I was passing by this place from outside looking in, and it was extremely bright light that was hitting the exterior of this place. And there was a doorway, and it didn't look like there was any problem. So I walked inside and I began to see the dust that was being, kicked up inside there.
Hmm.
And I did a walk around. And when I got to the backside, that's when this all came alive, and I began to see this shot that was all about light
Right.
and the moment.
Right.
So yeah, your instincts will tell you
Yeah.
what to do and where to go if you listen to them.
All right. And I'll talk about playing with perception. What's happening here, Arthur?
Well, this is a real good one to talk about perception, but when I tell you, you won't be as excited. This is in Guanajuato in Mexico, and it's this little, I don't know what we would call it, but it's a setup with a mirror kind of at a diagonal, which is the top half of the photo.
Okay.
And then kids could come in and play and lay against it and see themselves in the mirror. And I got all the way around the backside of it without getting myself in there and hiding reflection and just going with it.
That's very cool. The surprise.
Yeah, love is surprise. And that was a surprise.
It's a bit of the same gesture.
Kind of. And I think the reason a shot like this works is, and I would speak to a lot of people that like doing street work, as I remember this was done like 28 millimeters. So that gives you an idea of how close I am.
Yeah.
And, I'll strike up a conversation with people if I can. My Spanish is not great, but enough to get me in trouble. And I was talking to this woman, and as I talked, I kept getting closer and closer and closer. But I wanted to maintain enough information about the inside of her little shop there and the figures and things that surrounded her. Then she gave me this fantastic gesture that I took.
Yes.
What is nothing? Nothing.
This is very different for yours truly. A lot of you who've taken my class know how I hate flare and shots, but this is one that I thought worked. Not just because I did it. In fact, that was the thing. I did a double take and went, holy shit, this was a great moment of flair. This young lady is doing her quinceañera, and that is her, I believe that's her dad that's doing that little dance to the right
Yes.
there. But there was this, I followed these people through the streets for I don't know how long. It's the only shot I got out of there that I felt was unusual, different, and really reflected the moment.
The joy and the celebration. It's marvelous.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I was really taken by this, Arthur. I know a little bit about what Japan means to you, what it's meant over the decades, and your journey there in the early '80s with Ernst Haas. But if I'm not mistaken, this is a later photograph. This is not from one of those earlier shoots. Am I correct?
Yeah, this was probably in the last year and a half too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
this is wonderfully gentle.
we've done it several trips, or I've done a few trips rather, that purposely in the wintertime. We're trying to mix it up and go at different seasons. And wintertime, up until a few years ago, was the only time I really had never experienced that country. And I wanted to, ever since I saw a photograph by Paul Caponegro that was done in snow, and black and white, of course, but it didn't make any difference. It
Mhm.
just had this magical quality to it. And so I've been 2 or 3 times where I've had to deal with snow, and you begin to look and try to work in different ways. Now, a lot of it is I'm a kid from Texas and I don't see a lot of snow.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of mesmerized already. But then that, along with the other possibilities of what one can do with snow and ice and that kind of weather, it plays into what I think you come back with.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
had fallen that day and really hurt my knee badly. And I was in the hotel. I was very depressed. This was like midway through a trip.
Mhm.
And was just looking out the window, feeling sorry for myself. And then I started to see things happen.
Oh.
The upper third of the shot there is a river. And obviously, tremendous snowfall happening. And then it dawned on me, hey, maybe something's going to happen. Let's see what, and damned if not every umbrella that passed was black or clear. And all of a sudden, this beautiful yellow one came by.
Yeah.
And I remember showing this to a dear friend of mine who her comment about this shot was, looks like a frozen margarita with a lemon slice. And I thought, man, that's the best compliment I've ever had on a photo.
Wow. Let's see.
Yeah, a different type of mood. This is, again, I think it's a very good example of color is mood. We all that are attracted and use color know that color, number one, is a descriptor.
Yes.
It also is an item that is big in evoking mood. And in this case, this was very much about uh, late after, well, it was evening.
Mhm.
That's a moonrise there in the distance.
Mhm.
And this end of the day moment where I was there, my friend walked out. He was going out to make a picture, and he was headed out toward that distant volcano. That's not Fuji, by the way. We're
Right.
in the north in
You're in
Hokkaido.
Hokkaido. Yeah. Wow.
Just an opportunity to do something different with the Tories that everybody shoots from inside. So have I. And I stepped outside and was kind of taken by the dappled light, which we all know is a bitch to shoot.
Yes.
But I found that if I exposed for the highlights, as I always do, maybe something would happen.
Right.
And there was this one moment where the young lady in her kimono stopped, peeked through, gave me that wonderful expression, and made the shot.
Well, it's certainly mysterious. I mean, her expression, along with the lighting, along with what we could maybe say is underexposure, but to handle those highlights correctly, it does give that mood of mystery and just it's marvelous.
I'm sure a lot of you know, once again, Paul Caponegro's shot of the apple.
Yeah.
I would hardly say this compares, but I did have that feeling when I was looking at this tree,
Yeah.
and all the tiny little buds became like
Yeah.
stars in the skyscape there, and then the leaves, and just the sort of wind-blown feel that you get from the branches there. Simple shot, but something that certainly appealed to me.
Well, full of gesture and mood, and then that bit of magic and mystery along with it. That's a photograph. And a great reflection.
Reflection, but I went out of my way to keep the bank on the lower half and the upper half in there to kind of anchor the shot.
Mm-hmm. That's got a mood too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is just a gift, Arthur.
Oh, absolutely, Karen. And you know, those of you who know me know about the gift. Sometimes you're given something and you damn well better jump on it. I was walking you see the feet of that person in front of you. I was walking in that direction. This little girl was walking this way and stopped right in her tracks there. I had one moment to get one shot, got that, and she was off and running.
Wow.
But again, you people that shoot street know exactly what I'm talking about. Shooting street is a combination of so many things, luck being a big one, but I think you also have to work in, you know, anticipating things that can happen, being ready, having the right lens, the right exposure, and this kind of light. You could see it was kind of overcast, so I was already prepared for a lot of this. It was a matter of, you know, nailing it with a, for lack of a better term, a point and shoot,
Mhm.
and getting it. But the majority of stuff that we do on the street, the vast majority, 95% ends up in the trash.
Yeah.
If you're being honest and if you're being true to yourself and what you're shooting.
Right.
Yeah, the billboard was hard to resist.
Yeah.
Always love shooting through things. And this was a screen on a window in a restaurant where we were dining. And again, this is so much about perception as well, because it was the color, shapes, and forms that passed by. I always say to my students, when you're shooting through something, you have three possibilities. You can focus forward and let the background go soft. You can focus to the background and let the foreground go soft.
Mhm.
Or you can kind of focus somewhere in between, crank up your depth of field, and try to get sharpness front to back. In this case, it was about focusing forward on the screen and letting the shape and form of that's fellow with the person with the umbrella and the red sweater passing by.
Mhm. Super. Color coincidence.
Color and just I think the overall graphics of the shot. A lot of times I like playing with or arrows, or I don't know, kind of a sub theme. It seems like if I go back and look, but
Yes.
you know, you've got the dual arrows in there and the direction. Plus, I got very, very lucky there with the kind of mint colored van
Well,
that
that's what
kind
I'm
of,
saying. You know, it's
yeah.
like it doesn't get better than that. That color coincidence happening, and you've got a great background. The arrows have already stopped you. The diagonals are there. The whole graphics of the shot, and then you know is the extra surprise again. So
And a lot that were not that color. But you know, again, you make your own breaks here,
that's
and
right.
at some point, I guess you know it's time to go. But boy, it's nice when you can wait and spend the time with it.
Yeah. And I have to, you know, I mean, we were joking earlier that I was wondering how you got Samuel L. Jackson to travel with you, but I mean, come on, it's such a great silhouette.
This is as I remember, this is a subway entry, and this guy's coming out. But I had been shooting this for a while. Of course, I was caught up with the color and the pattern, the design, the shooting through all of that. And I had a lot of different things. But yeah, this guy was the most interesting character that came through. And then again, how that color, the green plays off the red, yellow, blue that's
All of
happening in the background. You've got to have awareness for everything that's going on in the shot, because color is about addition, whereas in black and white, it's about subtraction or abstraction. With color and addition, you add something to a photo and it doesn't always help it. It can go the other way. So having that cognizance and awareness of color to everything else that's going on within the shot is very key, I think, to getting a successful image.
You can tell us this is your daughter, Arthur. She's lovely.
This is my daughter. But I was in Santa Fe for something, and this again, I'm always shooting through things, and I think that's the fun thing, is how many different ways and different things can you shoot through, and what it does and how it affects the foreground, the middle ground, and the background.
Hmm. 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 This is tremendous.
This was interesting because, again, I didn't have any idea this was going to happen. It was late afternoon light. We were on this ranch outside of Santa Fe with my class. I stepped into this barn, and the rancher, the farmer, came in there and started pitchforking hay around. And as he did, all of that wonderful dust particles filled the air, backlit, and then the great surprise of his shadow silhouette, kind of dual shadow silhouette that are happening there. Those kind of visual surprises are the kind of things that just, I see this kind of thing and I wet my pants. I just absolutely, I want to get this and make sure I got it because I want to be able to show it to you.
Well,
And if you're there with me, you better be getting this shot too.
yeah, it's marvelous. And even in the midst of the excitement, the left side of this photo is so beautifully realized. It's so controlled and so in there. And there's just that poetry going on over there. And then the feast of everything else going on in the shot. It's a great shot, in my humble opinion.
Thank you.
And now we're going to get into some work from The Color of Light. The first.
Yeah. And Karen, I don't know if you want to, I don't know where we are on time, but we need to speed up some of the.
Oh.
So let me just quickly, you can go through these while I'm talking, and I'll just tell them about The Color of Light for those that don't have the book, or remind those that do. But what I wanted to do with this book, that it was the first book that I published on my own. I wanted to take a body of work that had accumulated over 40 plus years as a photographer, personal work. Mm-hmm. Not the work that I had gotten paid for. It was work that occurred over the time that, as a commercial photographer, I might have been out shooting for a client, but then on my off time, I was shooting for myself. And I wanted to take that work, I wanted to put book covers around it, and I wanted to celebrate it. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I did with that particular book. And so the work that's in there, it's from all over. It was a very difficult sell, I will tell you, and I think Annette's here. Annette, by the way, congratulations on your book. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Doing this as a book was a very, very hard sell. I spent a lot of time. How much time? Over 10 years trying to sell this idea to publishers. Mm-hmm. And the problem they had was they couldn't realize a theme within this. And the theme to me was light, color, and moments. And that was just a little too abstract for them. And they wanted something more specific. And at some point, I finally said, to hell with it. I think the only way I'm going to be able to do this is to go ahead and self-publish, which I have no regrets of doing, because I got exactly what I wanted. But the other thing I would say about this book that I think is interesting, and Karen and I have talked about many times, is the sequencing of the images in this book. The book has no real chapters. It has not much copy. There's a couple of intros and then the photographs.
Right.
So a tremendous amount of time was spent laying this book out. And the designer and he had mock pages spread out all over his studio, and I had small photos that he'd take half and I'd take half, and he'd go one way and I'd go the other, and we'd be laying them out, moving them around. What we found and what we ended up with was there were threads of different things that went from page to page. Not every spread was 2 photographs. Not every spread was a single photograph. There were no gutter jumps. There were no full page photos. All photos were handled democratically. Everything was the same size. So the one thing that we used to kind of sew them together was, it might have been color. It might have been this red going to the next page, whatever that was. These aren't in order, by the way.
Right.
To maybe a red of something else, totally different type of subject. It would be, so it could be a color connection. It could be a shadow connection. It could be a gesture connection. It could be all these things that in my second book I would discover would become quote unquote visual tools that happen to make it work. And I think the best compliment I get from people that have the book, because the book sold out a long time ago, is they love the sequencing. And that says to me, they got it. I was very concerned that people wouldn't get it. It's not real obvious, but it's the kind of thing, if you're a book lover and you look at photos and you like to look at photos, I think you begin to see how they come together and work. So it was a pleasure. It was exciting. It took 2.5 years to do. The
Well,
second book took about 6 months to put together, but this one took a long time, mainly because of that, and mainly because I kept traveling to countries I hadn't been to that I wanted to include. So
to include, yeah. Well, Arthur,
yeah,
I'm going to go that compliment one better. And you've heard this from me, but I don't know if you really hear it when I say this to you. And that is when I'm teaching my book class, we spend a great deal of time on sequencing. And I use your book, I hold it up as the example so that students can begin to open their minds about how connections are made between photographs. It's your book that I use out of all the ones that I could choose. And, I truly am not blowing smoke. There's from the very first moment that I got the book, and then, of course, with the journey as well, this was what spoke to me in such a deep level and was such a revelation. And it really does give people, this experience of expansiveness once you open yourself to looking for the connections between the photographs and how they feel and how they uplift the photos that went before and come after. That's what good sequencing does. It makes all the photos look better. And it's a tremendous job.
thank
Congratulations.
you. Yeah, I appreciate that, especially coming from you, because I know you know books.
This is just darling.
Yes, she came running down the street and struck that position for 3 frames, and then off she went. But what I like to point out to people is this is a photograph that speaks to what I call hidden structures within a shot. And
Mhm.
I'm totally honest with you here. I didn't see it or realize it or understand it at the time. Subconsciously, I may have, because what I see now is I see that sort of X-like
Oh, yeah.
gesture. And then I look to the background and it's like, uh-huh, there it is again and again. And when those things happen in a photograph, whether they're realized or not, most importantly, you see them at some point. That to me is really special.
It's very special. I think it's the universe playing with us if we're playing with the universe too.
Well,
Lots of
there
fun.
you go. Favorite shot of the arch in St. Louis, which again, I had been traveling for a couple of months on the road, got back, this slide came out on the table, and it was like, I don't remember shooting a dam. And then I realized I had been to St. Louis, and other than the fact that the reflection at the top there wasn't reflecting in the water, because that wasn't water. Yeah, I fooled myself.
That's very good. This is an incisive photograph.
It's one that almost didn't happen because I was arguing with my client who wouldn't stop the car. We're driving through Namibia and South Western Africa, and this housing project is what you're looking at here. That's kind of layered into the sand dunes there.
Yeah.
And this wonderful storm had just passed. That dark sky, which is my absolute favorite kind of light, dark sky passes, the sun comes out over our shoulder, and bingo,
Yeah.
you're looking at something special. And he wouldn't slow down or stop. So this is maybe the only successful shot I've ever made from a moving vehicle out of spite for myself. But yeah, it worked.
Mm. You can tell us that's your daughter.
That's my daughter in the chair. I was actually in this taxidermy shop. We were in this little town in Texas for a wedding or something, and I was shooting the other way. And as luck would have it, or my wife said, "Hey, stupid, turn around." She had put Jessica down in the chair there and was like, "Oh my God." I felt like I was in the jungle room at Graceland, but
Yeah,
she was right as always. That was the better shot than what I was shooting.
it's marvelous.
All north light from the windows there in the shop.
Mhm. Oops, sorry. There we are. Hmm. There you are peeping through something again.
Yeah, a lot of times, this is actually the first time that happened, but this is one of those outdoor cafes. I had rounded the corner. I was in on Vancouver Island, and boom, color.
Yeah.
This was all about the color. And then secondarily, everything that was going on in the reflections in the plastic that we see there, that was just, who wouldn't take this shot?
That's right.
But yeah, parking garage. So much of what we shoot is such mundane subject matter, but I think it proves that anything can be a photograph if we look at it and consider it. It might be the light, it might be the shadows, it may be something that's going on there. There's a certain gesture in here, inanimate gesture from the railings that are twisting and turning, as well as those shafts of light that are coming through.
Mhm.
Anything can be a photograph if you give it a chance and try to see it a little bit differently.
Mhm.
My class knows and has heard more than they'd like to hear about counterpoints, but this, of course, was an opportunity to show a different type of counterpoint, which isn't human, because a counterpoint can be anything within a shot that kind of breaks the perfect pattern, rhythm, whatever.
Super.
So I do have a son, and we had gone to the Statue of Liberty. We were there with the Maisels, and Dylan. Fortunately, he wore black. I got to say, he had the right outfit on, and as he would have it, he would not stand in line, so he began climbing the wall. Now, when my wife saw the picture, she was very angry, but I explained to her it's a wide-angle lens. That's grass at the bottom. He's maybe, 4 feet off the ground if he's that high, and you try to stop him. But again, I talked earlier about hidden structures, and what I love about the shot, and again, realized after, is the body language. His to the statue, the raised arm, the other arm that's tucked. No, he doesn't have the great book under his arm, but that mimicking of gesture, which was not planned, it just happened to be the moment that I caught him in his climb,
Yes. It's
which
wonderful.
he didn't go much further either.
Oh,
I did a lot of helicopter work when I was doing commercial assignments, which was great because I got to see a lot of things from an unusual perspective. And early one morning, going out of Santa Monica Airport, my assistant and I were in the back seat of the helicopter, doors off because we needed to be free to shoot out the doors. But typically what we'd have been doing at that point would be loading the cameras, checking things out, not really paying attention to anything, and all of a sudden the pilot said, "Oh shit." Now, that is not what you want to hear a pilot say.
no.
And I remember jumping up, looking around and said, what? And he said, "Look down there." And it was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I said, "Start circling." And my client, who was in the front seat next to the pilot, gave me a look like, "What are we doing?" And I said, "Don't worry, this will only take a second and you'll thank me later." But anyway,
Yeah. This is iconic.
yeah, on Beale Street in Memphis,
Yeah.
leaving Beale Street, not a planned shot by any means. All I remember is looking in the rearview mirror of the car and seeing blue with the red dot.
Right.
And I had my assistant turn around and we went back, and this guy was sitting there playing on this patio. And if you look carefully at the very bottom edge of the frame there, you'll see gray splatter marks on the
Mm-hmm.
blue wall. And I didn't, again, my students know I don't like cutting limbs off. Thus, his foot cut off at the bottom there is somewhat problematic for people, and as it is for me. But if I would have gone all the way down to include that foot, I would have had this gray strip that I think would have interrupted everything in the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I chose to do it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I've just had this picture for so long that I've talked myself into it, but I actually like it. I
Mm-hmm.
like the way the crossed foot, one with the red sock, almost looks like it's stepping out of the frame.
Right.
And anyway,
Yeah.
my ultimate shot about gesture.
Yes.
Karen, we can just go through here. We're never going to get done.
Yes, we are. We're fine,
well,
Arthur. We're
okay.
enjoying every moment of it.
Well, you are, but
It's a nice photo of the Pope, my friend.
Well, they need to know if they haven't heard. I get calls frequently from people saying they'd like to buy the picture of the Pope. I don't know what they're talking about. I never had the pleasure. And they refer to this picture. This picture, which became the cover of the Color of Light, it's actually done in one of those vehicles that transports people around Yellowstone in winter. And the frost had begun to melt on the window. And this gentleman was sitting with his back to the window, red hunter's cap,
Mm-hmm.
not the Pope's great hat.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful silver hair there, and I believe like a Carhartt type of tan jacket.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just something, I don't know, I made 3 frames of this on Kodachrome and forgot about it, and never thought that 40 years later it would end up being the cover of a book. But it does have, for me, I think, a magical quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, people, not just once or twice, I've had several people, want the picture of the Pope, and we're going to name it Not the Pope. Or
Not
maybe we'll name it the Pope. I don't know. Maybe I should call it.
open up a whole new market, you know.
Exactly.
Mhm.
This was in Mexico. This horse belonged to the gentleman that owned the premier farm for raising bulls at bullfighting in Mexico. And this was his pride and joy that he turned loose and let us just, the class just photograph. And yeah, this was purely luck.
Yeah, it's super.
4
And tell
years
us-
later, I
Yeah.
wanted to do something else, and I could have easily done a Color of Light 2, 3, 4, 5, but I didn't want to. I figured I did what I did with that. I wanted to do something different. And so that different became, it started with the conversation that I had with Ann Wilkes Tucker, who is the former curator of photography at the museum here in Houston. Very, very well known, and happens to be a friend. And she said, well, let's do an interview and talk. And we sat down for what became 3 days of conversation. That conversation is what yielded what the book would be. And that book became kind of 3 parts. It became, well, that interview, which is lengthy.
Right.
It became about my process, photographic process.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last part was a series of quote unquote journeys, both commercial journeys and personal journeys. Those trips that, for whatever reason, took us places that we didn't expect to go. In some cases, kept going back for more and more. It might have been places like Mexico, which I consistently go back to or did for workshop photo trips. This from an assignment for Transamerica.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a chance to kind of show work that was not just personal work again, but to share a little bit about how I made my living as a photographer, the things I did, as well as the personal, kind of akin, showing that we need to continue to grow as photographers. And I wanted to show that growth with new work as well as along with the older stuff.
Well, I'm glad you said the word growth, because when I saw this image in the group of images that we put together for the slideshow, I thought, well, this is, I mean, I see the threads, I see the pattern and the rest of it, but there's another element to this photograph that I really enjoy. And the word I keep coming back to is that it looks so much like a tapestry. And it's really beautiful, Arthur.
Thank you. It was so much about the tree lines on those hills, Karen,
Yeah.
that to me looked like where they had been like kind of sawn in half.
Right.
And then you had that wonderful stack of forest in the foreground there that I thought color-wise worked really beautiful to layer in the foreground.
It's wonderful.
Cowboy Project, yeah, this started with what started as a book project. The publisher failed, but I kept going back and shooting this ranch for 8 or 9 years, just because pure enjoyment of being out there and making these photographs and trying to reflect and show the lifestyle of seriously just how much it had not changed from 150 years ago.
Right. Right. Do you think the opportunity still exists, Arthur? Or I don't know. It's just that so much change has happened, and I'd be worried that cowboys and cell phones and that kind of thing. But this work is, it is iconic, and I've seen a lot of the work over the years. I mean, many, many, many different photographs, tremendous photographs from this project, and I don't know. Maybe it's time to revisit getting it published. And the slideshow, and it's hard to use that word to describe the production that you have of the project here, but it's tremendous. But I'd love to see the work in a book. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, there's like a mini portfolio in the journey of the work, as well as some in the first book as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a possibility down the line, and it was just really a matter of trying to do something different. So much of what I'd seen on Cowboys and still see is primarily black and white. A lot of it, was set up. And that was one of the things I had to ingratiate myself with these guys. It wasn't easy. It took several trips, and then I became, somebody they actually looked forward to seeing, because I not only brought them pictures, I usually had beer and whiskey at the campfire every night. So I was very, very popular. God help me if I forgot that.
Yeah.
But it did take time, and I was trying to get I was trying to be fly on the wall as much as I could with than what they did. So often these guys are photographed and it's very staged,
Yes.
and they know that. They realize that. They didn't like that. So I wanted kind of the working life.
Well, it's a wonderful example of what it takes to do a fine long-term project. That level of commitment and that level of, well, just the commitment to the time and the financial resources and the commitment of the heart to go back and go back and go back and develop those personal relationships. That's how great projects get made.
Absolutely, yeah. It's passion and sacrifice, and if you're willing to combine those two things into something that you're doing, you're going to be rewarded.
That's right. This is from Orang here in Portugal.
Yes. Yes. A lot of the photographs, when I do a photo tour, besides working with participants, trying to help them, I'm of course shooting for myself as well, trying to do some things. This was done at before dawn one morning,
Mhm.
not too far from the castle up above.
Yeah. Again, the surprise of the gentleman in the upper left-hand corner. I mean,
Mm,
we see the portrait on the wall and it's marvelous along with the people in the front and the middle ground, but the fellow in the upper left-hand corner, it's just
yeah. And turquoise nail polish.
and turquoise nail polish. That's right.
Perception again. This is from the ship going to Antarctica. That is Antarctica you're looking at. And what's going on here, because a lot of people are convinced this is multiple layers or photographs. It's one.
Mhm.
Um, the sun is setting, and the sun is just illuminating the cloud above that blue curve that you see there. That blue curve is the continent of Antarctica, all the way down to the white layer that you see, the broken layer there where it meets the water.
Oh,
And so it's basically three layers of water, the continent of Antarctica, and the cloud. But it definitely plays with your perception in a way that I think is fun and interesting.
yeah.
And it was waiting for that moment when the sun lifted above the continent, because that gradated blue that we're looking at there in the center, you swear is sky,
Yeah,
but it's
but it's not. Oh, it's wonderful.
and I think again, all of you that have been to my work close or shots of presentations have seen this, but it's incorrect. It is in there correctly. It is a vertical, but our brains want to turn it horizontal. And what you're looking at is the green is the side of a tenement building in Hong Kong. The blue, of course, is the sky because I'm looking upward, and all of the poles and things that are hanging out, that's laundry extending from the balconies of windows in each of the apartments.
Yeah, fabs. Just great.
I love all kinds of light, this being bounce light. and how beautifully it illuminated this woman, not planned, literally walking down the street, seeing this moment, jumping in her doorway, smiling, making a picture, and then explaining what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah. Again, I think it's so much, anticipation and luck, but she was waiting for a bus. I was on a bus. And then this kind of triple gesture of hands saluting, waving.
Alive to the moment. This is hilarious.
I knew this had possibilities, that electric green that was going on within this bus stop and the various shapes, the geometric shapes. It was just a matter of, could I get lucky and get anybody or anything? And here it was the gentleman on the bike, his front wheel, and then the little dog in the other opening there.
Marvelous.
Shooting through the backside of a waterfall, focused on the water droplets, but shooting very, very fast. And kind of the opposite of what people normally do when they're shooting water. They kind of want that kind of real slippery kind of water look. And I just thought it'd be fun to try it the other way and see what happened. And then I had these 4 figures that almost seemed to be color coordinated, standing out on the ground in the background there.
Sorry, I'm having to manage the screen. This is
I do talk about magical light, and this was, for those who don't know, my dear friend Jay Maisel in his studio in Brooklyn. And what's happening here, besides enjoying a late afternoon cigar that we were enjoying, he has like about 6 panels, windows up above there. And the light was passing through. We're in the middle of a great conversation about God knows what. And all of a sudden I saw this and I said, don't effing move. Something he could relate to. And then, yeah, and I got the picture and he loved it, but I think he was sorry that he didn't get the picture.
Well, of course he was.
He got a print.
There you go. I'm sure it doesn't work for him though. He'd much rather have the photo.
Right.
Did you take this because of the poster? I mean, I get it.
No, this was in a funky motel in Austin. And I mean, that's what the place looked like. It was sort of this lime green. It was weird, but it had its own style and look. And I was literally sitting in my bed. I had this new Leica digital camera that I was playing with, and the shutter clicked while I was doing this. And I looked at the back of the camera, as we do, and this eyeball staring at me, and it scared the bejesus out of me because I thought, holy shit. And I looked back up, and what was going on, it was an eye drop commercial. But I happened to score big time when I clicked the shutter without paying attention to what I was doing. Total accident that worked.
It does work. You can't go anywhere on the streets of Havana and not see that portrait of Che. You just can't.
I had the great fortune of working for Coca-Cola. It was one of my clients for 20 plus years, and we went everywhere and did everything. And this picture, we went to the location in Budapest the day before to the baths there just to kind of scope things out. And I thought, yeah, we can do something here. And there were four of these guys were there. So we came back the next day and the 4 guys were there. And we, of course, gave them some Cokes to, make the shot worthy. And as the shot is going on, these other characters start coming into the frame, and the client is absolutely panicking. We don't want them in there. Yes, we do. And I mean, they look like they're out of central casting.
They
Fabulous characters, no direction here, just play chess, drink Coke, and look like you give a shit. And it really and truly, it turned out to be one of my favorite shots that I made for them.
It's wonderful.
As this one is too. This is in Tromsø, Norway, and about 300 miles above the Arctic Circle. They actually have a bottling plant there. But shooting across the fjord, I saw all these colorful little buildings that looked like a tapestry to me.
Mhm.
Used like a 300 millimeter lens, and in those days we didn't have cell phones, so I had to like direct him by walkie-talkie and get him park on the street where I could get a good view. But yeah, it became a favorite.
Super.
This is just one of those fun ones to me that kind of, again, plays with our perception. But what you're seeing on the top third of the shot or top half is it's a department store canopy, and it's mirrored.
Ah,
So that fellow there is standing on the sidewalk and he's looking at the building across the street.
right.
Then you have the figure in black and white, the mural there, and they're both looking toward the kind of the center of the shot, where if you look carefully between the lights, you see a man up on top of the roof there doing some type of work. Again, I love those little kind of things that happen in the moment of a shot.
Yeah.
So a lot of this work, as you can see, happened in places that I spent a lot of time the last few years: Cuba, Mexico, Portugal, Japan. And there certainly are other places I've been, and I certainly include them in the work. But you do find yourself, for whatever reason, going back to places, in the case of several of those places I love and have gotten to know well, but you never ever know what you're going to get, whether you're going to get lucky with the situation, whether you've got somebody who can do something like this and give you a shot you've never made before.
Mhm. Wonderful. Well, I'm going to leave the next screen up for a while as we open up for question and answer, because I want everyone to take a screenshot of it or what have you, but it's also in the email that I send to everyone, all of the places that Arthur is going to be teaching, not to be missed, as well as links for the books. And I know that The Color of Light is sold out, but there are a few deluxe editions available. Is that still true, Arthur?
Yeah, there are some deluxe editions available. The deluxe edition basically comes in a handmade not clamshell, but slipcase, with a same guy makes a beautiful handmade print folio and your choice of any print from the book.
Wow, that's tremendous.
As well as the book. And there's a few other little things that are connected to it.
Right.
But there's that. And then the Journey, we still have both the trade edition and a deluxe edition of it as well.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to stop the share because I do want to open this up. And please, everyone, unmute yourself if you like. And I've got some notices here in the chat. Just a couple of comments here from all of the different photographs. Most people saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And Mark Muse is saying, don't underestimate what you see subconsciously. That's right. That feeling, talking about you feel things as they're about to happen or when they're happening. And there we go. We have the gift. So does anyone have a question that they want to? Oh, John Cornicello says, Jay would never use such language. Yeah, we know that.
Never.
Yeah, never, ever.
I would say something, Karen.
Please, Elizabeth.
I was thinking, hi, Arthur.
Hey,
Hi, darling. I was thinking about that picture that you had with the eyeball just now, and I think it's a perfect example of a moment to tell people, just be careful what you're so quick to throw away, because I think people don't always get it. They see that person walking in or walking out of a frame and they think, oh, they spoiled my shot, when quite often they've saved it probably, or they've added another layer to it as a dimension.
Yeah.
absolutely.
That eyeball picture was a perfect example of of the surprise, because it was so confusing when I saw it. And then when you explained it, I'm like, brilliant. And somebody else might have just clicked it off thinking, oh, it went away, but it really did make that photograph.
Going along with that, Elizabeth, I think it's worth saying, keep seconds and thirds and almost, because I find that too often people edit too quickly and that's the shot. I know this from experience because I used to do the same damn thing. And occasionally we'll go back and we'll look at those close seconds and thirds and almost and realize you chose the wrong one. And I think what happens to us is, because we've got those and we've got those to compare to over time, the smells, the taste, whatever went into making the shot, all of a sudden dissipate and nobody cares about anyway, except you. That's part of the editing process, is to get down to just what's in front of you, because cut lines and the stories are great, but a picture should be able to stand on its own. And that happens over time and going back to that photograph. And I think, like I said, I've seen it happen where I will say to myself, you picked the wrong one. And fortunately, I have this other one. The other thing real quickly that I think happens also is, the longer we do this, the stronger our ability to see and accept. Our photographic maturity is what I call it, comes into play. And we're more accepting of things, not being casual about it, but because we realize that's good. It's not the perfect photo, because the perfect photo is not always interesting. It's usually the imperfect photo is the one that keeps us coming back for more. And that's the thing that I would say to you all, is don't overlook that. Look for the shot that has a little bit of I think the term is a tear in the fabric, and that's going to keep you going back for more. But yeah, time and space between that final edit is going to serve you well.
I think it's the intuition often that has come into that also, and you maybe miss it as you're editing sometimes, and I think that we grow as artists so that our own visual voice becomes stronger. And if you're making a complicated picture, I see this in my water stuff a lot, that's all reflections, that sometimes you miss that other thing. I'm editing a whole lot of Polaroids right now, Polaroid SX70s, that I had never even considered. And all of a sudden I'm asked for a show in China coming up. And I'm like, why did these have been in a box for 20 years. I never even looked at them again. So it is a joy to go back and kind of see where you were and how you've grown into it. I think some of us don't have this. I think our vision gets more sophisticated the more we photograph and the more we look at other people's work. I'm thrilled seeing this show today. I think it was so beautiful. And one other thing I wanted to comment about was Karen's perception about your work, because she also knows you well, having the gift of being able to have worked with you all these years.
Yes.
You're very, very perceptive, Karen. I really admire that about you and your lectures.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth.
Your voice is also extremely just aware. And that's a real gift to both of you.
Well, coming from you, that's thank you very much. Unexpected and deeply appreciated. Thank you. Arthur.
Speaking of that, though, Karen, I'm going to put a link in the chat to my conversation with you last week so people can see your side, put you on the other side of the screen.
Okay, thank you. Arthur, you have endured, as all of us have, this last 14 months now. And, we've all responded to being locked down or isolated or just staying at home in different ways. But I've been trying to think about what I've gained from this time. And, I have lots of my own answers for that, but I'm curious to how you have felt really now that we've almost, from our lips to God's ears, now that we've almost got it in the rear view mirror. What have you gained during this time that you'll move forward into your photography with?
I think you're asking me, what did I do with my time?
No.
I didn't go out and shoot a pandemic project. I didn't feel compelled to. A lot of people did, and I saw some great things that were done. Hey, I like being home for 14 months because I've never been home this long in my 40 plus years. And so I enjoyed it. Now, Linda may not have. In fact, she doesn't see me. Anyway, yeah, no, I think will be thrilled when I leave again. But in any case, seriously, no, I like being home. And what did I do? I spent time going through my archive. I did online teaching, which I will tell you, because a lot of you have been in those classes, some of you have, I didn't want to do them. I didn't like the idea of online. I thought it was too, I love the gathering. I love the campfire. I love the love, and I love being with people. And I just thought, I don't know about this. I was wrong. I was totally wrong, because I've done 8 or 9 of these now, and I've got 2 more scheduled, and then I'm taking a break for a while. But they have been terrific. For those of you that care, want to know, I think they're here to stay. I think in person's coming back, but I think online is here to stay. And I think that's a good thing, because a lot of times, a lot of us just can't get together all the time. And to be able to do it via Zoom or whatever medium, it's terrific. And I gotta say, the best part is I see the work, I see the effort that the participants put into it, and it's harder because you're having to work from your own backyard.
Sure.
And I get it, but boy, the effort, the work, the thinking, boy, it's magnified, and so that's been a pleasure. So quite frankly, I've been very busy with that. And the other thing, like I said, was having time, as Karen was and Elizabeth was saying, going back and looking at old work,
Right.
which, in our careers, especially in mine, I didn't have a lot of time. I would go from one commercial assignment to the next, and things would stack up.
Mhm.
I've got this giant, giant archive, and yet I shredded 2,000 pounds of slides about a month ago.
Yeah,
I've
I
got the
saw
big,
that photo.
yeah, well, I was surprised too. And of course, of all people, Maisel had the formula for, okay, I got 2,000 shots. Okay, man, let me do it. Yeah, it's about 500,000 shots. And, and that was the throwaway. I still got, I'm easily a few million here that I've got to go through. But it's been real interesting. And at the same time, I'll find things that I've missed or never saw.
Yeah.
And that's exciting, because I can scan them and share them and make prints, or possibly use them in future books.
Mhm.
So that's it. I just, like I said, I'm looking forward to, I think we're going to be able to start seeing each other here maybe midsummer or so. And that'll be fun. It's going to be different, but yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, unless anyone else has a question, as you all know, I try to be respectful of both our guests' time and everyone that's attending. So I'm going to wrap it up. But
Karen?
yes.
Art, Doug Carrata here.
Hey, Doug.
Totally amazed at your work. And I'm caught, you've managed to catch the gesture, the moment in all your pictures. And I've wondered how you manage that. Are you shooting on motor drive? Are you so shooting so much that you have so many just before and just after that you happen to be able to have that moment that just shines? So
Part of it's really, part of it is anticipatory. You're watching a scene unfold in front of you.
Mhm.
And I've watched a lot of students do this. They click and they do this. And when they look down at the back of their camera, they're missing the shot.
right.
And it's like, no, just stay, your photography, take pictures, look at them later. So part of it, a good part of it is, a gut feeling. A good part of it is experience. And the realization, Doug, that you miss a lot. You miss most of it.
Uh-huh.
So what you end up with, the things I've shared with you, are the things that for me worked. And in some cases, I could critique some of the ones that we showed today, but time did not permit. But in any case, That's part of it. Motor drive, that can help, but with digital, it just gives you that much more stuff to edit and, go through.
Mhm.
Look, you want to start with the top, you start with Cartier-Bresson.
Right.
That was somebody who
Mhm.
defined the decisive moment. He didn't shoot with the motor drive. He shot with the little Leica and one frame at a click. He might have clicked off a few, but the thing is, you've got to be in the moment. You got because you can shoot with the motor drive and you still may or may not get the moment that's happening there. It's really paying attention to what's happening in front of you. And so often I'll see students work where, yeah, you got a moment, but is that the moment, the heightened moment, the
At the peak.
elusive, yeah, the peak moment. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going for. And no, if we're going to be honest, and you should be, because there are so many pictures out there. All of us, are dealing with all this photo noise that's happening on social media and everywhere's out there. And you guys are all serious photographers. And as serious photographers, what are you trying to? You're trying to elevate work above all that. And if you're going to be serious about it, fricking do your homework and don't be afraid to edit out the almost and the maybes. And I really like this one, but nobody else cares. We don't need just one more photo.
That's
We
right.
don't. And in the end, how many photos are we going to be remembered for anyway, if any?
That's right.
10. 10,
If we're lucky,
if we're lucky.
if we're lucky.
I
It's
have a
sort of
quick
interesting.
question,
I
Karen.
will say, can I say a second? That how many people actually, and this is not a plug for workshop stories, but how many of those 100 photographers in the book are sort of saying the exact same thing, Arthur? There are a lot of stories about that peak moment, like where dance photography. I've had students that want to come and do the whole, from the time the dancer walks in the room till she lands on the floor, and you still miss it.
You've got to feel it. You've got to
And that
feel
would be
it.
the same thing with the bullfight, which I photographed a lot and you guys did. It's really being present to actually what's going on. You're maybe one frame before and one after are good because sometimes it takes that split second for the camera to go down, but the rest of it is why, it's not going to be anything. If you have to tell somebody about it, what almost happened, you missed it.
Yeah.
Right.
That
Gail.
shows up a lot in the book. It's interesting.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Did Gail, you've been
Yeah.
waving your hand.
I have, thank you. May I ask just that you elaborate a little bit on particularly, I love all the ways that you made starry nights or fairy dust or whatever magical term you want to use incorporated in your images that give them just a lovely feel I'm crazy about. And there are a couple that seem to be both night light and daytime, particularly that black background starry branch,
Mm.
the pop of color on the leaves. Also the one, the subway with, I think Karen said Daniel Day-Lewis, where it seems we're in all times of the day at one time. Can you elaborate on just, I don't know if it's technical or layers of looking through screen and rain?
Well, for most of these folks that know me, I'm not real technical. I know enough to get myself in trouble and make the image that I want to make. The branch, for instance, that's not night. That was in the day, but it was awareness of the background, that black background. It was like there was a wall, as I remember, but it was hidden back there. And it was just that branch. It was like having this black canvas and this foreground and the possibilities of what was in front of me, plus what I was seeing. Just what I saw is what I snapped, what I shared with you. And that was what I thought was amazing. So again, I think it's about awareness. It's about an appreciation for the color black, which to me, I think is the most important color in color photography. The way other colors play off of it, the way if it's a shadow, things come out of it or things go into it. It has a lot to do with that. As far as some of the other things, they may have been evening shots or night shots, but so much of it is about an awareness also for lighting. dramatic lighting, and how dramatic lighting will play into a, could be a pretty, minor shot, and all of a sudden it looks like something else because of time of day, the light, the weather, all of those conditions, I think, can have an effect as to how we perceive it.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like there's so much depth of field and so much clarity. And then another layer of that is magical and mystical. So I just really love it. Thanks for the moment. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Gail.
Hey
Yeah.
Arthur, I do think you have a photography fairy that follows you around, man. I remember Annette and I being in Coopville photographing that barn, and we left, and then 5 minutes later you pulled up with Karen and you got that fucking awesome rainbow shot.
Still pissed, are you?
So many moments like that where I'm just like, damn.
No, but I think, seriously, the lesson there is, I think, it was a combination of experience, because I knew we were going to get some. It had been raining, as we all remember, late afternoon. And then when that stopped raining and the light was coming out, there's always potential for a rainbow if you're in the right place, right time. And actually, I was driving around with Linda at that time. And
Yeah, because you left me at home.
God, y'all are really setting me up for a lot of people wanting a workshop. Make a workshop with him and he'll screw you and get pictures and you won't. No, I think it's seriously, it's about how something calls out to you, all of you, when we make a photo. You determine what it was. It the light? Is it the color? Is it the is that a combination of things? You owe it to the thing as much as to yourself to stick with it, and you may or may not get anything.
Right.
We're not doing brain surgery here, so it's not going to make any difference in the long run. They're pictures, and God knows we all love a beautiful photo or an amazing image that captures this moment. But give yourself a break too. By the same token, you're serious about what you do, then be serious about the thing that's in front of you and give it your all. And then at least you can say, well, I tried, but it didn't happen. Because I can tell you that's happened many, many times to me. And every now and then, the magical work.
Yeah.
But you got to have some patience, because we're too often running off to the next thing, missing something else. Now, it's different if you're trying to shoot a person who waves you off. Okay, if somebody does that, I abide by that, and I go around the corner and boom, I'm rewarded with something else. Maybe it's the guy doing this or something. But yeah, it's just, you do this long enough, and I think things will begin to play in your favor.
Yeah, I do think you are a unicorn in the photography world. You are so unique in your vision and how you execute photographs. Listen, there's a million photographers, and I don't blow smoke up, but you are really have such a unique eye that is just, it's only you can do it.
Well, for that matter, all of you do. And again, anyone who's ever taken my class knows the last thing I want to do is clone me to you. I believe that every single one of you have your own visual fingerprint. You're the way you see. And that's one of the things I try to get people to believe in, express, and start doing, because you do. And so trust yourself and trust your vision and do it. You just can't be, do it every weekend or the next workshop or the next photo trip or whatever.
That's right.
It's an exercise, and the eye muscle goes blank if you don't do anything. So yeah, you owe it to yourself to go out there and push it.
And if you're not doing it, or you can't do it for some reason, pick up a great book or go online and look at somebody's work that is really, really wonderful. And I say to my students all the time, be very careful about what you're putting in visually. Only put in the best, only put in the finest, but fill it up.
Are we ending?
We can.
Well, I'm putting in plugs for two friends here. One, Elizabeth Opalinek's book on workshop stories. I haven't seen it, but I'm proud to be part of it, as is Karen. This is something that I think a lot of you will, this is one of those books that I think you will get a lot out of. And I think it's out now, Elizabeth. Okay.
Oh, it's stuck in Hong Kong at the moment in a boat somewhere trying to get here by a container. It came from it's by the same people that printed your book, Artron.
Well, do yourself a favor. And the other is Annette still around? Annette's book that just came out, Foliage, that is a great surprise. I'm really, really happy for her. We worked on that in our mentorship, but boy, she did it. And I'm anxious to see that as well. So yeah, those are two success stories that, everybody should take a look at. And Karen's right. Photo books are your friends. So go for it.
We do have a copy. We do know
Oh,
it exists.
there we go. All right.
We do
Does
know
exist.
it exists. So people realize it'll be here. It's gonna be here.
Great.
Tremendous. Absolutely
Here.
tremendous. Yes, Joanne.
I just have to remind Arthur of the thrill we all had in Coopville when his book, The Color of Light, was delivered to the studio.
Yes,
Yeah.
you were in that class. Yeah.
And page by page, we watched him just exuberate excitement
Yes.
with looking at that book finally after all his work. And it
Yeah.
was a thrill to be part of that.
Any of you that get to that point where you do a book will experience the same thing. It's a wonderful feeling. As I told my wife, it's like the closest I feel to giving birth, to which she said, no, it's not. Not even close. Don't even go there. So, anyway,
Arthur.
in any
thank you.
case, it's a great thing. Karen, thanks for the opportunity. It's so great to see all of you. So many that I know, and I haven't said, hey, Bob Newman, and a lot of you that I haven't seen in too long. I do hope we can all get together in the near future. And for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, hopefully somewhere down the line we'll cross. And with that, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be well.
Bye.
Great.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.